How's it going, guys? In this video I'm going to be showing you how you can rebuild your front brake caliper in your vehicle. Alright, so on this Civic Type R that I'm working on, I have a sticking brake caliper here, and there is damage on the disc here where you can see it, and it's very difficult to turn over. As you can see, it's completely jammed there, and takes a lot of pressure to move it. So we're going to be rebuilding this today. Now, when it comes to the likes of a brake caliper sticking like this, you have basically a couple of options. You can buy a reconditioned caliper already, but that depends on two things: how much time you have to wait and the cost of the caliper rebuild. So if it's very cheap to buy a reconditioned brake caliper, it's always the best option. You can get it quicker, stick it in, and you can get out of the job in the same day. The fact that this car has no pressure or customer waiting for it allowed me to buy a caliper rebuild kit, and I'm going to show you how you can go about and do that yourself. It is a much cheaper option, but it takes more time because of postage and waiting and so on. So I'm going to whip this off right now, and I'm going to bring it over to the bench, and I'm going to show you what's involved in the kit and how you do this job. So to take the caliper off, you need to take out these two bolts here, which is on the slide pins. You need to take off the brake hose, and I will be clamping the brake hose to limit the amount of brake fluid that drops out on the ground. This is free to come out then when you try and put a bit of pressure back on the pad to free it away from the disc, and we will be able to work on this over on the bench, free from the vehicle. On this particular car, which is a Honda Civic Type R, it's 212 mils, and this is my adjustable brake hose clamp. Okay, so the hose is a 14 mil. There will be a washer on the inside and outside. Make sure that you don't lose that. These two 12 mils, pop back the brake pad, and this will all come out then. We just lever on the bottom and pull up and away. A good idea before you start to put everything back is to make sure that your bleed nipple is opening without any issues, and if you take it out all the way and make sure that the top pinhole there is free from any debris and that there's no blockage, so that you will be able to bleed it with no issue. You can blow in some air in one side and it should shoot out the other side with no problem. Always a good idea to do that when you're doing this. Okay, so I have my caliper out here. I'm going to turn it upside down and drain as much brake fluid out of it as I can in a moment. But this is my kit that I have here. I actually bought these online from two different suppliers. I will link them in the description. But I bought the new slide pins as well as the rubber boots and bolts. So I bought that kit. And with rebuild kits, they can be got in different forms. So these are the seals that actually go onto the caliper. This outer one here is the dust boot one, and this, you'll see it better in a second, but this square one here, square shape one, is the inner seal. And then you have your two rubbers as well, so I have doubled up on them, but that's no big deal. And you get your silicone grease included. But I've also purchased the piston as part of this kit too. So this and this came together as part of the kit, and I bought this additionally just to make sure that I had everything I could possibly need to make this a success. And all of these parts I have here I'm going to link in the description, so if you want to get any of them you will be able to have a direct link for that. Okay, so I got it set up on my vise here. I just shine some light in it. You can see the piston here. What I done is I used an old brake pad on this side and I just held that in with a vice grip. That's not really necessary. You can use anything just to stop the impact of the piston when it shoots out. I will be running compressed air in this port here, and we will be getting the piston to move out that side. Alright, so this isn't moving with compressed air at all, so I'm just going to get a punch and go to the back of the piston and try and break it free. I'm not getting a good enough seal on the base. There's always a little bit of leak in there, and this is properly jammed in. Another thing you can do is, before you disconnect from the car, you could pump the brake pedal with this out of place, and you can push it through. If it's really bad, that's a good option. Just disconnect it from the car and sit back up in the vehicle and pump it, and it'll try and free that out. It's starting to move there now, so that's all good. Just got to be careful with this one that you don't damage any of the threads when you're hitting it through. Okay, let's have a look and see. And there we have the piston out. You can see there that it's badly rusted on the outside parts, and there is the reason why this piston was not free. If you just look there, that is the inner seal, the square seal. And I'm going to set about removing them items now. So I'm going to take off this dust boot first, then I'm going to take the inner seal out, and then I'm going to give a full-on clean to the inside of that chamber to make sure that it's nice and clean, nice and free for when the new piston goes back in. Here's a look at the piston removed, and there's some very noticeable pitting on the actual piston itself, so I'm quite happy that I have a new one of them. If you didn't have a new one, you'd have to clean that as good as you could and make sure that any of the raised damage was all taken down. Heavy grade sandpaper, a wire wheel on a grinder, and just clean it up the best you could. If you look in there, a little bit got stuck. And that's that out now, and then you have the inner seal just there. This is the most important part of this. This will stop any brake fluid passing by and leaking out past the piston. And also this is your return. So when that twists as the piston moves past, it allows it to move back again afterwards. So this is the most important seal to have sitting correctly. And when you're cleaning the inner part of it, you want to make sure that this sits down perfectly afterwards. So that's it. I'm going to set about cleaning the inside now. I'm just going to be using a wire brush for the most part of this, and my little flat screwdriver and pick, and taking out all the rust and dirt particles that's in there. Afterwards I'll be using brake clean, and I'll be using compressed air just to blow it all off. Starting to look a lot cleaner now. I did use this pick as well to reach in around and give a good scraping on the inside of both seals. Wire brushed it multiple times and used my small flat screwdriver to go around the edges as well. Lastly, I'm going to rub some 400 grit sandpaper on the inside in here, and afterwards it'll be just a brake clean off and greasing it up and getting it ready for refit back. This is now ready for reinstall. The piston area is all clear. The seal area is also nice and clear now as well. And we're going to fit the seals in now. I'm just going to rub grease all around the seal now before fitting it in. Okay, so that seal is now in. I'll give you a better look in a moment when I have everything seated back down. Alright, so we're going to grease up the piston now. What I find the easiest when fitting those is to put this rubber on the piston first, like you've seen in the last clip, slide it towards the very back of the actual piston, and then when you're pushing it forward, this is loose on the inside and you can just fold it in around. I start with always putting the hardest part in first, so I tilt it back. I fit the base side where it's very difficult to put the screwdriver in. That means that you have like 180 degrees here afterwards, which is free, and you can just fit that in a lot easier. That is how I got it in, and that is how that seal is incomplete now. If you see any areas balling up when you have the piston pushed out, you may have one part of it that still needs to be pushed back in. So if it's balling up in one area, then you may have to have a look again, but that's sitting nicely all the way around now, and it's ready to go back in the vehicle. Okay, so depending on the condition of your slide pins and boots, you may not even need to replace these. Mine are actually in good condition, but because I have the kit, I'm going to go ahead and replace them anyways. But everything is free. I've already cleaned this out before. Simply a wire brush on the inside, small wire brush. Sandpaper, I used heavier grit sandpaper on that. I believe it was around what was it, I think 120 I cleaned it out with, and I just used a flat screwdriver on the outside. So I'm just going to pull these out of position now and fit the new slide pins, and then I'm going to fit this all back together again. Slide pin is in the bottom, and I'm just going to show you how to fit the top one now. So you compress it like that way that there's no trapped air in the boot. Keep it compressed, slide it in, and then it just pops over. And it's as simple as that. I've it all fitted back together now. Just have to take off the hose clamp and start to bleed the system. A few ways to bleed the system. You can pressurize it if you have that kit. You can use vacuum if you have that kit, or you can get someone in on the pedal and just pump it through while you are opening and closing the bleed nipple. So I'm just going to go ahead and bleed it now. Everything is now back together. The system is all bled up. I've topped off the reservoir and I've put back on the bleed nipple cap as well. So it is completely free, no issues at all, and I always recommend having someone holding the brake pedal down for like a minute or two and checking to see if there's any brake fluid passing by the seal. If there is, you obviously have to do it again because the seal is folded over on itself. And that is pretty much it. That's all really you need to look out for at the finish. No brake leak, no brake fluid leak, and after you release the brake pedal, everything is moving freely. Once you have that, you have a successful job. I hope you found this video useful, guys. If you're thinking about rebuilding your brake caliper yourself, you pretty much have all the information that you need. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.